Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a topic that, well, it really cuts to the heart of what it means to follow Christ, especially in a culture like ours, a culture that often, equates our worth with what we own, what we buy. So, our mission for this deep dive, it's to unpack some key insights from the source material you've shared. We're really focusing in on Luke 14, verses 25 to 33. We'll look at historical context, get some academic perspective, hear a really compelling real-life story, and hopefully offer some practical takeaways. It's all geared towards helping you wrestle with that big question: what does following Christ really cost? Let's start with the core scripture, Luke 14.27. It says, "Whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." It's pretty stark language.
It is. And just before that, Jesus uses even stronger words.
Right, that bit about hating family, even your own life.
Exactly. Which sounds shocking to us, but it's really about hyperbole. It was a common way Jewish teachers made a point, signaling this radical, undivided allegiance. Not literal hate, of course.
Okay, so it's about priority, absolute priority.
Precisely.
So then, in our world, filled with stuff, subscriptions, keeping up appearances, what does it mean to, quote, hate what holds us back? To pick up that cross, maybe think about it this way for you listening. What attachments, people, comforts, maybe even your reputation might be sort of quietly steering your life more than these principles?
That's a powerful question to start with. And you're right about the hyperbole in hate. The original audience, they would have understood that rhetorical style. And then Luke gives us those two parables right after.
The tower builder and the king go into war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both hammer home the same point. You've got to count the cost before you commit.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly practical advice for something so spiritual.
And practical, yeah.
And we have to remember, in ancient Palestine, carrying a cross wasn't just a metaphor.
Right. It was literal.
It was literal, brutal, public shame, execution. So when Jesus used that image, it landed with incredible weight. The cost was potentially everything. And, if you look back through history, this tension isn't new. This pull between faith and, stuff.
Like who?
Well, think about Martin Luther. During the Reformation, right? He was sharply critical of the wealthy, powerful church. He kept pointing back to Scripture, not all the religious trappings.
Pulling focus back to the core.
Yes. Or go back even further, John Chrysostom in Constantinople. He called out the wealthy for using their riches almost like badges of piety, rather than actually living out the gospel.
So this isn't just a modern consumerist problem. It's been around.
It's a perennial challenge, really, when faith meets abundance. And then, of course, you have Dietrich Bonhoeffer. His book, The Cost of Discipleship, written back in 1937, feels incredibly relevant today.
He talked about cheap grace, right?
Exactly. He warned against this idea of grace as just sort of easy forgiveness without any real expectation of obedience or transformation.
Like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Something like that. Instead, he championed costly grace, grace that demands everything from us, giving up our nets like the first disciples, sacrificing self, enduring suffering if necessary. He famously said, when Christ calls a man, he bids him come and die.
Heavy words.
Very. But his point was profound. God's grace cost God his very life. And because of that immense cost, it rightfully demands our whole selves in response. It's not just receiving, it's responding with everything we are.
Okay, so that's a powerful foundation historically, theologically, but how? How do we live that out now? I mean, honestly, society screams, "By now you deserve it," from every screen, every billboard. How do you practice renunciation in that world? Where do we even start?
That really is the core challenge, isn't it? I think maybe the first step is just identifying your actual values. Asking yourself honestly, what story is my life telling through my choices?
Like an inventory.
Sort of, yeah. Then count the cost in your own life. Where does your time really go? Your money, your deepest affections. Are your supposed kingdom priorities actually reflected there?
And if they're not?
Then there's a disconnect. And that calls for really intentional decisions. Maybe it means selling things you don't truly need. Maybe it's setting up regular sacrificial giving. Or it could even mean saying no to extra income if it means preserving time for people, for service. It has to be deliberate.
Deliberate choices. That makes sense. And, to make this less abstract, we actually have someone who's walked this path. We have a real-life story now from someone who's wrestled deeply with these exact questions. Daniel, thanks for joining us. Guest speaker, Daniel.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my name's Daniel. And just a couple of years ago, I was totally caught up in it all, chasing what I thought was the dream life, Guest speaker Daniel. Big house, new truck, always needing the latest gadget. On paper, I guess I had it made, but inside, I just felt hollow, like I was constantly striving but never arriving. That sounds exhausting. Guest speaker Daniel was. Then one Sunday, my pastor was preaching on Luke 14, the part about forsaking everything, verses 28 to 30. It hit me hard, like an arrow straight to my heart. A wake-up call. Guest speaker Daniel. Absolutely. I knew I couldn't just ignore it. I realized I needed to make some pretty radical changes. Like, what? What did you do, guest speaker Daniel? Well, for starters, I sold the truck. That was the big one. And I actually took steps to reduce my income significantly. Wow. Reduce your income. Guest speaker Daniel.
Yeah. And I started using my weekends differently. Volunteering, serving at a low-income housing ministry nearby. Was that difficult? I mean, the adjustment. Guest speaker Daniel. Oh, yeah, it was rough at times. Definitely moments of discomfort, second-guessing myself. Did I do the right thing? Guest speaker Daniel. But then, the things I started experiencing there, seeing real relationships form, hearing people pray with such honesty, celebrating baptisms right there in the community center, just reminded me what the gospel is actually about, Connection. Guest speaker Daniel. And that feeling, that joy, it felt something inside me that no purchase, no gadget ever could touch. That's powerful. Guest speaker Daniel. I also started simplifying other areas. Canceled cable, cut way back on subscriptions, ate out less, just freeing up finances for things that felt more meaningful. How did people around you react? Friends, family, guest speaker Daniel. Oh, at first, honestly, a lot of my friends thought I was crazy. Like, why would you choose to have less? Yeah, that goes against the grain. Guest speaker Daniel, totally. But now, looking back, I see so much freedom in it. Having less stuff actually created space for deeper connections, a clearer sense of purpose, a kind of peace I didn't know before. Daniel, thank you. Thank you for sharing that so openly. It's really something to sit with. Let's just pause for a second. As you listening hear Daniel's story, maybe ask yourself, what attachments, what potential idols might be asking for pieces of your heart? What kind of courage might it take for you to carry your cross today, maybe in ways similar to Daniel? Daniel's experience, it really brings to life what some contemporary Christian thinkers talk about. Daniel, your story makes me think of something Cynthia Campbell wrote. She said, simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation to love God and others more freely.
That's such a key insight. Liberation, not just loss.
Yeah. But how do we help people bridge that gap between understanding it intellectually and actually feeling that liberation in their daily choices, like Daniel did?
It's a process, isn't it? Daniel's story shows it takes time. And like he said, consistent choices. Pastor David Platt puts it bluntly sometimes, talking about our culture. He says something like, sometimes I have to count the cost and choose the kingdom.
Choose the kingdom over convenience, over status.
Right. It's about what you gain, not just what you give up. A deeper life. And Bonhoeffer's words keep echoing here. Cheap grace is grace without discipleship, without the cross. He's reminding us, I think, that true discipleship isn't passive. It's an active response to this incredible grace that costs God everything. If we circle back to those parables in Luke the Builder checking his funds, the king assessing his army.
Counting the cost again.
Yes. Both are about realistically assessing if you can finish what you start. Jesus is very direct. Count the cost before you sign up to follow. And in our world, the modern idols, they're subtle sometimes. Convenience, status, comfort, they often feel like necessities, don't they?
Yeah, they sneak in. We justify them.
We do. And sometimes, without us even realizing it, they become these silent masters dictating our choices. But discipleship, at its core, invites us into a certain, discomfort, a cross that can feel heavy. But paradoxically, that path of intentional surrender, that's where resurrection life, true freedom, is found. Again, God's grace costs God his life. It demands our whole selves back. It's a radical all-in exchange.
So practically day to day.
Practically, it means tangible steps. Maybe simplifying finances. Decluttering not just closets, but the attachments cluttering our hearts. Sharing generously, maybe sacrificially, with those in need. Intentionally investing time in relationships rather than just pursuing more things. And consistently praying for clarity. God, what does following you look like today in this decision? Each step, even the small ones, it's like carrying a piece of that cross. And each step becomes a witness, doesn't it? In a world that's looking for something more than what it can buy.
Those are really concrete steps. Simplify, declutter, reprioritize time. Daniel, thinking back on your journey, was there one aspect or maybe an underlying shift that really shaped your heart the most as you chose purpose over purchases? Guest speaker, Daniel. It really wasn't one big lightning bolt moment. It was more The accumulation of consistent, small, minute-by-minute decisions, guest speaker Daniel, choosing purpose over another purchase again and again. That's where I found it. The sort of gift of simplicity. It genuinely freed me up to build community, to deepen my faith in ways I hadn't expected. Guest speaker Daniel, it really wasn't about deprivation, like that quote said. It felt like liberation. Liberation through consistent, small choices. That's so insightful, Daniel. And it connects right back to that verse, Luke 14:33, which can sound so extreme. Whoever does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. But hearing you, Daniel, it sounds like renouncing all isn't always this one-time dramatic headline sacrifice. Guest speaker Daniel. Not for me, no. It's more like a daily dying to self, renouncing comforts, pushing back against cultural norms in quiet ways that add up.
A daily cross-bearing in small things.
Exactly. So for you listening, maybe we can boil this down to 3 actionable steps for this week, just to start this deep dive in your own life. First, identify one attachment. What's the thing you automatically reach for when you're stressed, bored, maybe feeling a bit empty? Just notice it. Recognize it might be acting like a subtle idol for your heart. Second, count the cost. What would surrendering that one thing actually look like for you? Think about the impact maybe on your money, maybe your time, maybe even your need for approval. Just be honest with yourself. And third, take one concrete step. Maybe this week, cancel that subscription you hardly use and decide right now where that money will go. Instead, maybe donate it. Or if it's about time, consciously use those minutes you'd normally spend on that attachment for prayer or calling a friend or helping someone out. Just one small step. And maybe, just maybe, share that step, or even just your thoughts about it with someone you trust, someone who can pray with you, encourage you. Accountability helps. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We've journeyed through scripture, looked at history, heard a powerful real-life story from Daniel, and hopefully done some personal reflection. We've tried to unpack what holds us back, heard from Bonhoeffer and others about costly grace, and seen what cross-bearing can look like today.
It's been a rich discussion.
It has.
Yeah.
And wherever you are on this journey, please remember, those small, intentional steps towards simplicity, towards surrender, they really do matter. And Christ is with you on that narrow road. We hope you'll continue your own deep dives, subscribe, maybe share this with others if it resonated. And as we close, here's maybe one final thought to mull over. If true discipleship really asks us to reevaluate everything we chase after, what silent assumptions about success or security might still be subtly keeping you from embracing the very liberation we've been talking about? Something to think about. Until next time, may you carry your cross with purpose, may you feel the chains of consumerism loosen, and may you live in true freedom and obedience.